Today, on the Matt Walsh Show, our elections in America are now being decided based on tribal blood feuds in Africa. That appears to be the case anyway, and we'll talk about it. On a related note, a clip goes viral of a 100-year-old World War II veteran lamenting that the sacrifice wasn't worth it, which is a tragic thought, but is it true? Did they fight for Western civilization, only for Western civilization to be surrendered to the enemy anyway? Also, Trump unveils a plan for 50-year mortgages to make housing more affordable. I'll explain why this is the worst idea he's ever had. All of that and much more today on The Matt Walsh Show. What started as an idea is now the podcast and business blasting through your earbuds. Launching your own business is pretty much on everybody's bucket list, but most people let it collect dust right next to learn a language and get abs. Stop hiding behind lame excuses like, I don't have the skills, I can't do it alone. Turn those what ifs into bold why nots with Shopify backing your ideas. They've got the tools, you just need to take the chance. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. We even use it for our own Daily Wire shop to make sure things are running smoothly and efficiently so you can all get the goods. You might be asking, what if I can't design a website or I'm worried people haven't heard of my brand? Well, not a problem. Shopify's got you covered from the start with beautiful, ready-to-go templates that match your brand style and help you find your customers through easy-to-run email and social media campaigns. And if you need a hand with everyday tasks, their AI tools created specifically for commerce can help enhance product images, write descriptions, and more. Plus, their award-winning customer support is available 24/7 to share advice if you ever get stuck. Turn those dreams into and give them the best shot of success with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Walsh. Go to shopify.com/Walsh, shopify.com/Walsh. There was one result from last week's election that, as you may remember, actually seemed like a tiny sliver of good news, and it came, of all places, from the city of Minneapolis, otherwise known as Little Mogadishu, otherwise known as the single worst place in the world to spend a fake $20 bill. Despite concerns that a Muslim socialist from Somalia named Omar Fateh would win the mayor's race, ultimately Fateh was defeated. The incumbent mayor, Jacob Fry, emerged victorious by just about 8,000 votes. Now, Fry, of course, is a weasel and a terrible person and a terrible politician, most famous for genuflecting and pretending to cry before George Floyd's golden casket. But Fry, for all of his many obvious faults, was not the worst case scenario. There were a small number of very bad ideas that he actually opposed, believe it or not. Omar Fateh, on the other hand, would have been the Zohran Mamdani of Minneapolis. He wanted rent control. He wanted to dismantle the police department. And above all, he wanted to loot the treasury for the benefit of a hostile foreign country. And although it was a close race, Fateh lost. It was an apparent sign that Minneapolis, at least, wasn't quite as far gone as New York. The election indicated that maybe socialism and Somali interests aren't as popular in Minneapolis as we thought. So, that was good news, or what passes for good news these days, or so it seemed. But it turns out that, in a very convoluted way, foreign influence and mass migration and tribalism may indeed have led to the defeat of Omar Fateh, who would have been the first Muslim and Somali mayor of Minneapolis. That's because Somalis are divided into various clans, many of which are openly hostile to one another, because this is how it works in Africa. So even though there are something like 80,000 Somalis in Minneapolis, many of them may not have voted for Omar Fateh because he didn't belong to their clan. And in a race that was decided by 8,000 votes, that is potentially very significant. So this is one post I saw on social media explaining the phenomenon and how it might have impacted the race on Tuesday. Quote, a significant number of Somalians in Minneapolis didn't vote for ethnic Somali mayoral candidate Omar Fateh due to Fateh being part of the Darude clan rather than the Hawiye. These deep-seated clan wars allowed Mayor Jacob Fry to rally key community leaders from the Hawiye clan to hold off a challenge from Fateh. Representative Ilhan Omar, who endorsed Fateh and is part of the Darude clan, is reportedly the next target of the Hawiye community leaders as they are emboldened by their proxy victory over the Darude in the mayoral election she will possibly face a primary challenge on tribal grounds. So that was the post. Now, this is one of those posts that admittedly, it seems a little on the nose. It sounds a lot like something that a right-winger would come up with as a way of parodying the state of play in Minneapolis politics. And I'll acknowledge that, there's no polling or mainstream source that I could find that backs this up. They didn't do any exit polls about like what Somali clan do you belong to. Now, of course, that's not surprising because no mainstream news organization or pollster has ever bothered to ask Somalis in Minneapolis about their clan membership and how it might affect their vote. And this is just not a thing that the mainstream media wants to investigate. So you're not going to find that kind of evidence for this. And that said, though, over the past couple of days, a man named Drew Pavlu has collected a few social media reactions from small Somali accounts that support this theory. Pavlu reports that, quote, there's an emerging consensus on Somali TikTok and Twitter that inter-clan conflict sunk Omar Fateh's mayoral campaign in Minneapolis. A significant number of Somalis apparently voted against him due to his Somali clan. At a minimum, this is definitely a phenomenon that the so-called Somali community in Minneapolis is talking about at the moment. Here's just one example. Quote, very embarrassing that some Somalis voted for a Kadan over a Somali brother. Kabya Alad is now poisoning Western politics. Now, best I can tell, a Kadan is a white person, not a Star Wars character. And Kabya Alad refers to Somalia's system of clan-based identity and loyalty. So this person is lamenting the fact that instead of voting for the Somali candidate, Omar Fateh, Somalis voted for Jacob Fry, that dastardly Kadan, because they didn't like Omar Fateh's clan identity. And here's a few more posts along those lines from YouTube. These people are referring to Jacob Fry's campaign strategy. Quote, this guy is taking advantage of tribal politics. We're too easy. This guy understands how to divide our people. And when they say our people, again, of course, they're not talking about Americans because they don't consider themselves to be American, and they're not. They're talking about Somalis. And there's a few more quotes in Somali that I ran through Google Translator, but Google had no idea what they were saying either. And then there's this TikTok video, which makes the point about as clearly as you possibly can. Watch.
This is wild. Imagine losing a Somali mayor because of tribalism, qabil. Yeah, Omar Fateh called out his Somali community and said, vote for me. The Somali community responded, what's your qabil? Omar Fateh, educated, qualified, confused, looks to his left and he sees his opponent, Jacob, being welcomed as Somali, given a tribe, Hawiya, and was giving a Somali name. His opponent got clan before vote.
This is now what political analysis in America looks like. This is what it looks like and sounds like. And if these clips are accurate, and they appear to be, then there's a very good chance that American elections are now being decided based on tribal blood feuds in Africa. I mean, how long until voters have to declare their clan affiliation instead of their party affiliation? Is this what our ancestors had in mind? Does anyone think that? If you've never read them, it's worth taking a look at the Federalist Papers or George Washington's Farewell Address. The founders didn't just warn about the influence of political factions, they also specifically warned about the influence of foreign attachments and intrigues that cause people to become bitter and hostile to Republican liberty. Well, here's what that looks like in practice. This is what he's talking about. Foreign attachments are now dictating the outcome of major elections from New York to Minneapolis. And it's only a matter of time before these foreign loyalties lead to open racial warfare and total dysfunction, just like they have in Somalia. Now, you're going to have tribal gang warfare, Somali tribal warfare in Minneapolis. Now, among other things, especially since it's almost Veterans Day, it's important to point out what a grave betrayal this is. Over the past year or so, various commentators have floated the idea that, maybe we lost World War II in the long term. As the theory goes, yes, we defeated the Axis powers, saved the West, and so on, but it was a temporary victory because instead of fighting us on the battlefield, the enemies of Western civilization have spent the better part of the last century simply walking in through the front door. And now they're all here. And as a result, the argument goes, Many of those sacrifices, hundreds of thousands of casualties, were made in vain. Now, in response, it's become fashionable to decry these commentators as members of the so-called woke right, just to not even engage with the thought at all. And it's certainly easy to dismiss their claims for various reasons, and many people have done so. But it becomes a lot harder to dismiss these arguments when you listen to the words of actual veterans of World War II, people who I certainly hope would not be labeled woke right by the commentariat on X. And many of them are now stating in sum and substance that the war wasn't worth it, that we didn't actually win, that we're losing everything they fought for. They're taking a look around the country and the West in general, and they're recoiling in disgust. Here's one example that you may have seen. This is from an interview on Fox 13 in Tampa. Listen.
And people don't realize what they have. They bitch about it. They do. And then nowadays, I am so upset that the things we did and the things we fought for and the boys that died for it, it's all gone down the drain. Our country's gone to hell in a handbasket. We haven't got the country we had when I was raised. Not at all. Nobody will have the fun I had. Nobody will have the opportunity I had. It's just not the same. That's not what our boys, that's not what they died for.
That's very upsetting to watch. It's become a pretty big genre of footage online. Many veterans of World War II are saying the same thing, one after another. So you may have seen this clip, which went very viral online. This is from Good Morning Britain, and it's truly a very difficult clip to watch, just like the last one was. It features British World War II veteran Alec Penstone, who is now 100 years old, and he served in the Royal Navy during the D-Day invasion. This is the kind of man whose opinion of, the state of things right now we should listen to and take very seriously. And, listen to it.
What does Remembrance Sunday mean for you? What is your message?
My message is, I can see in my mind's eye there was rows and rows of white stones of all the hundreds of my friends and everybody else that gave their lives for what? The country of today. No, I'm sorry. The sacrifice wasn't worth the result that it is now.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
What do you mean by that, though? At this point?
What we fought for, was our freedom. We find that even now it's downright worse than what it was when I fought for it.
Oh, Alec, I'm sorry you feel like that, because I want you to know that all the generations that have come since, including me and my children, are so grateful for your bravery and all that for service personnel.
Now, when you watch that, maybe you didn't notice the headlines crawling across the bottom there. And one of them said, police are looking for Algerian sex offender released in error. That's what the headline said. So the whole thing is, you couldn't ask for a better or, a clearer or more tragic illustration of where we are right now, that you've got this elderly man saying the sacrifice wasn't worth it, look what this country has become. And then as he is saying that, Algerian sex offender released from prison in error. Now, it's hard enough to listen to what Alec Penstone is saying. He fought in some of the most pivotal battles of World War II. Many of his friends died in the war. And now he looks around Britain and he sees a country that's been completely conquered. When he was in his 20s and 30s and 40s, Britain didn't have more than 1 million Africans. They barely had any African migrants at all. Britain was full of British people. And they didn't arrest people for exercising their free speech rights, nor did they mutilate children in the name of gender ideology. It was a cohesive, wealthy, sane British country. And all of that has changed. And yet somehow, even after hearing all this from Alec Penstone himself, the female host manages to make the clip even worse. And as it goes on, it gets worse because it goes on for another minute or two. We only played the first minute, but she talking to this man in this grating tone, talking to him like she's a kindergarten teacher and he's a 4-year-old upset because he misses his mommy. She's not addressing him like he is a grown man, an elderly man who fought for her country and deserves respect. And when he's telling you something like this, you should listen to him and want to hear more. Not, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. Basically cuts him off in the most patronizing tone imaginable before he can elaborate on why exactly the country has gone to hell. But there's nothing particularly controversial about what he said, even in Britain. It's now the prevailing sentiment in the country that Britain's culture has been subverted and destroyed by open borders. This is from the Daily Mail, quote, research from King's College London and pollsters at Ipsos found that 8 in 10 said they felt the nation was divided, up 5 percentage points from 2 years ago and 10 points from 2020, and half of the public said Britain's culture was changing too fast. Most strikingly, the findings found that the national pride across all age groups also plummeted, with less than half, 46%, saying they were proud of their country, down 10 points from 2020. Now, why might that be? The Anchorwoman's co-host, a man named Adil Ray, probably has some ideas as to why the West has fallen, why no one feels any national pride anymore. Even though he's a British TV host, Adil Ray recently had some thoughts about the mayoral election in New York, and here's what he wrote earlier this month. This is one of the guys that was sitting. This is the guy that was sitting on the couch with the veteran. Some say Mamdani may implement Sharia law. He might. The heart of Sharia is social justice, welfare, fairness, charity, and cohesion. Most Muslim countries operate a hybrid of Sharia and civil law, are slowly reforming and abandoning unethical practices despite the West's portrayal. So it's good to have Sharia law. It's a good thing to have Sharia law in New York, he says. Yes, those are the words of a TV host who just pretended to be shocked, absolutely shocked, that a World War II veteran was unhappy with the state of Britain and how it's changed for the worst. He's openly endorsing Sharia law, saying it's not so bad. And he kept his job after this. He was allowed to interview this veteran and act completely clueless about what Alec Penstone was getting at. What do you mean by that? He asked incredulously. Well, he openly represents exactly what Mr. Penstone was talking about. He is the problem, along with his co-host. Of course, they act like they don't understand what he's talking about, but everybody knows. The man fought for his country. And today he looks around and sees that it has surrendered itself to a third world invasion. Men like him, white men who built his country, are demonized and scapegoated again and again. And while lawless migrants rape and kill in the street, the government focuses its energies on arresting people who say insulting things about, transgenders on the internet. That's what he means. That's what he sees in his final years. He gave everything to the cause of preserving Western civilization, and now the thing that he fought to preserve is slipping away. It was sacrificed on the altar of multiculturalism. It was surrendered by, smiley, patronizing liberals shouting slogans like diversity is our strength. He fought for his country, for England, and today England is gone. So of course he thinks it wasn't worth it. And the really awful truth is that, as difficult as it may be to admit, and as much as the sing-songy anchorwoman doesn't want him to say it, he might be right. But that's ultimately up to us to decide. Will we pull Western civilization back from the brink or let it die? And that choice ultimately is ours. Now let's get to our 5 headlines. Being a husband, father, and host of my own show means life never slows down. Imagine trying to eat 31 different fruits and vegetables every day. Sounds miserable and time-consuming. Frankly, I just don't want to do all that. I'd rather go get something deep-fried and unhealthy on occasion. With Balance of Nature, well, there's never been a more convenient way to ensure you get a wide variety of fruits and vegetables every day. Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements are different from the start. They have the original blend that captures the natural balance of color, taste, and smell from the real whole foods. You can take them however you like, swallow them with water, chew them, open the capsules and mix the powder into your meals or drinks, really up to you. Inside, you'll find ingredients from 16 whole fruits and 15 whole vegetables that are freeze-dried and lab-tested with no binders, no fillers, no flow agents, just 100% whole food ingredients. Balance of Nature's goal is simple: deliver the natural goodness of fruits, vegetables, spices, and fibers exactly as nature intended in a form that goes wherever you go. Balance of Nature has been a sponsor on the show for a while now, and look, I really love their products. They make healthy choices feel accessible, no matter how busy you are, which is really important to me. So go to balanceofnature.com and get a free fiber and spice supplement, plus 35% off your first set as a new preferred customer by using discount code Walsh. A recent Danish study found something really concerning. Just 1 year after an abortion, women were 50% more likely to need psychiatric treatment and 87% more likely to experience personality or behavioral disorders. These aren't just statistics. They represent real women facing real struggles, and that's why Preborn takes a different approach. When a woman walks through their doors uncertain and afraid, she finds something that she may not have expected: genuine support. Through an ultrasound, she meets her baby for the first time, and suddenly, felt like an impossible situation begins to look different. But Preborn doesn't stop there. When a woman chooses life, they walk alongside her for up to 2 years, providing practical help like maternity clothes and diapers, as well as ongoing counseling and emotional support. It's care for the whole person, addressing her physical needs, her mental health, and her future. As you think about your year-end giving, consider the great investment that you could make here, and that is the gift of life, which is really the greatest investment of all. Dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby, or visit preborn.com/Walsh. All gifts are tax deductible, and Preborn is a 5-star rated charity. That's preborn.com/Walsh to make a difference for generations to come. Okay, the Hill reports Federal Housing Finance Agency Director Bill Pulte on Saturday said the Trump administration is working on a plan to introduce 50-year mortgage terms for home buyers. Pulte wrote in a statement on the social platform X, "Thanks to President Trump, we are indeed working on the 50-year mortgage, a complete game changer." It followed a Truth Social post by President Trump earlier in the day, where he shared a graphic juxtaposing an image of him next to one of former President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The administration that oversaw the New Deal established the 30-year mortgage standard to help citizens recover from the Great Depression. Similarly, Trump campaigned on creating affordability for the younger generation last year, but the president has faced headwinds on the subject more recently as prices rise. Google searches for help with mortgage recently climbed to their highest level since 2009, while adjustable rate mortgages, or ARMs, have also been trending. And so now so that's the 50-year mortgage is the thing that they're thinking will help solve this problem. Now, I have to tell you, Trump has done a lot of great stuff this term, and I've talked about those things. This is not one of the great things that he's done. In fact, I think that this is maybe the worst idea that Trump has ever had. In fact, I think it certainly is. Solving the affordability problem with a 50-year mortgage just completely misses the point. It gets everything wrong. Because all this means is that young people who take the step to own a home will never actually own a home. Your bank will own your home, and if you buy a home at 30 or 35 on a 50-year mortgage, you're not going to own your home until you're in your 80s. The bank will own it. So this just means that nobody will ever really own their home. The bank will own it until they die and after. And so, this is essentially just renting from the bank. That's basically what this is. This is a glorified version of renting, but you're renting from the bank. The goal here should be to make it so that more people can own homes, actually own them, not just live in them, own them. Getting people to live in houses that's not the problem. We can do that. We're doing that now. Unless you're homeless, you live in some kind of house or apartment. So it's we don't have a problem of just getting people into a place where they have a roof over their head. Everybody's already there. Again, unless you're a homeless drug addict on the street, then you live in some kind of domicile. No, the whole point, the American dream is to own a place, to own it yourself. so that it's yours, not to be indebted to the bank for life, which is what this would do. That's all you accomplish here. You're giving young people more debt. You're making them debt slaves for longer than they otherwise would have been. And it makes homeownership, actual homeownership, harder to achieve, not easier. Okay, this is not the way to do it. And along with all the other problems, you're also increasing the amount of interest that people will be paying by a staggering amount. You're basically doubling the lifetime interest that you'd pay on like a 30-year mortgage. So, for example, if you took out say a $300,000 loan at 6 or 7% on a 30-year mortgage, you're going to pay like $300,000 or $400,000 in interest. Someone's going to check my math, and it's going to turn out to be all wrong. But so the point is that on a 50-year, if that's the interest that you would pay, now you're paying like $700,000 or $800,000. And if you buy a home, let's say you take out a loan for $500,000, you're looking at 50-year mortgage. You're looking at like $1 million in interest that you're going to pay over 50 years. You'll be paying just the interest for decades. And so this is terrible. I mean, this is a terrible idea. And you're building up equity much, much slower, because I guess the argument you could make that, well, it's not exactly like renting from the bank, because when you rent an apartment and then you move out, you don't have any equity in it at all. You just move and that's it. But at least on a 50-year mortgage, if you live there for 10 years, live there for 15 years, and then you move, you've built up some equity. Like, you can get something out of it. But with a 50-year mortgage, I mean, the equity you're building up is so slow that you could live in your home for 15 years, and then when you go to sell it, you're not getting that much back out of it, because you're only like, 20-30% of the way through your mortgage. So I don't see this. And also, by the way, this is not going to drive down the cost of housing, which is the whole point, ostensibly, because the longer loan means lower monthly payments. That's the whole idea, right? That's why they're doing it, is that you have a lower monthly payment. But you're not, so then you are, in the short term, you're going to increase demand, like more people, because it's a lower monthly payment, more people will be able to, quote unquote, afford it. So you're increasing demand, but you're not increasing the supply. And again, I'm no economist at all, but this is like basic economics 101. You're increasing the demand, but not the supply. So when demand goes up, but supply does not go up along with it, what happens to prices? Well, they go up. So I don't see how this helps the average person at all. It helps banks, sure, it helps mortgage lenders, but it doesn't help people. This is very much the mentality of, when we talked on the show a while ago about one of the newest innovations in making things affordable, is that now you can have a payment plan for food that you buy on DoorDash. So if you get a burrito bowl from Chipotle, you can pay for it in 4 easy installments. And so in the short term, does that make food more affordable? Is it more affordable, quote unquote, to have your lunch delivered because you're paying less upfront, or nothing at all? Maybe you could, I don't know how it works exactly, but you're paying less, or you're paying nothing upfront. So that means that, like today, if I want to get a burrito bowl today, it will be, quote unquote, cheaper today, because I'm going to pay for it in monthly installments. I'm going to take out a mortgage on my burrito bowl, and I'm going to pay for it. But in the longer term, not even like really long term, but just a little bit longer term, you're paying more. Like you've made burritos much, 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 much more expensive than they otherwise would have been. Food becomes more expensive by adding payment plans and interest to it, not less. And this is the same thing. You're making housing more affordable by making it less affordable. That's the genius plan, and I just think it's ridiculous. If you want to drive down housing costs, well, I'll tell you what you can do. It's a multifaceted problem. There's not one thing that's going to solve the entire problem. It's true that it is a problem. It's way too expensive to buy a house. It's ridiculously expensive. that is a problem. Americans should be able to, provided that you that you go out and you get a job and you're sort of like doing your part, then you should be able to own a home, to own property. I mean, I'm a big believer in that. That's everyone should be able to. Doesn't mean you have like a right to it. Okay, we don't all have a right, a human right to own a home. But in a functioning society, this is something that people should be able to do, provided they go out, they get a job, they do all that. This is supposed to be the American dream. You go out, you work hard, buy a house, have a family. I mean, that's the way these things are supposed to work. And if it gets to a point where that's just impossible for wide swaths of the population, well, then things aren't working. And that's where we are right now. It's not working. It's not working for Americans. The American dream is untenable for a lot of Americans. So here's one way to address this problem. Get the illegal immigrants out of our country. Okay, we have tens of, we don't even know how many. How many are here? We don't know. Nobody knows. Tens of millions. I mean, you'll hear someone say, well, 20 million. They've been saying 20 million since I was in high school. So it's certainly more than that. What's the real number? 40 million, 50 million, 80 million, 100 million? I don't know. Tens of millions of illegal immigrants, people that do not belong in this country, are here. And they're living in their living places. I mean, some of them are living out on the street, but a lot of them are living in homes. You could increase the supply really quickly if you rounded these people up and got them out of this country. Give America back to Americans. We don't need 50-year mortgages. That's not what we need. If anything, if you want to do something for 50 years, how about a 50-year immigration moratorium, if anything? You want a 50-year plan, how about that? How about closing the door and saying, we are full, this is it, we're at capacity. If you don't belong here, get the hell out. This America is for Americans. Sorry, we can't take you. Sorry, I know you want to come here from Somalia. I know you want to come here from wherever you're coming. You want to come here from South Asia. You want to come here from Sub-Saharan Africa. You want to come here from Central America. Sorry, we can't take you. We're at capacity. Our priority is not you. It's America. This is our country. Go back to your own country and make your own country better for your people. That's what you do if you want to make housing affordable. If we rounded up all the illegal immigrants and expelled them from the country in a week, I know it's not going to happen. A week is certainly probably too aggressive. But let's just say we did, hypothetically. What do you think happens to housing prices? They definitely don't go up, I'll tell you that. So this is what I want to see. And this is also why I have no patience for the people who say, well, we shut down the border. Do we really need to go round up all the mass deportations? Is that really? That's not fair. That's not fair. That's cruel. Well, no, it's unfair to let them stay here. They don't belong here. This is not their country. And they're making it harder for everyone else to live. So how about that plan? That's my plan instead of our 50-year mortgage plan. Let's see. Update on this, the New York Post. The transgender person caught up in a viral Los Angeles gym bathroom row have been convicted of assaulting their now ex-wife while living in Ohio as a man before taking the victim's first name as their own. Alexis Black ran afoul of women at a gym in Beverly Hills, including singer-songwriter Tish Hyman, who accused them of exposing himself and harassing her in the locker room. Black, formerly Grant Freeman, pleaded guilty in 2022 to savagely beating his wife, Alexis Freeman, causing a compound fractured jaw, among other serious injuries. Court documents from Hamilton County said Kyle Grant Freeman caused serious physical harm to the victim. The victim suffered a compound fractured mandible, which resulted in her needing surgery. Black, who's transitioning, has since shot down the claims, insisting at TMZ that he was fully covered. Jumped ahead a little bit. He was, accused, as we saw, of being fully exposed in this bathroom. He's said that he was fully covered and denying that anything inappropriate unfolded ahead of the caught-on-camera fracas. Okay, so we followed this case on the show. There's not a lot else to be said about it, but I did want to pass along this entirely unsurprising update. This dude is apparently, reportedly, according to this report, is a woman beater, a wife beater. And now here he is LARPing as a woman and showing up in the locker rooms. And not only that, but we learned that his wife's name, I guess his ex-wife, is Alexis. And his name is Grant. But the name he took when he quote-unquote transitioned is Alexis. So he beat his wife and took her name, beat her, and literally tried to become her. And this is very common, by the way. I mean, this is very common. You find this very often with these married, middle-aged dudes who suddenly start identifying as trans. Very often they will take their wife's name. They certainly will wear their wife's clothing. That's usually where all this starts. And they'll try to look like their wives. Sometimes you'll see these before and after things on images on social media of some guy bragging about his quote-unquote transition. And, maybe you see the wife. It's like you see the first photo and he's just a regular guy with his wife, right? And then you see the transition photo and it's like, it looks like he switched places. Or he looks like a bizarro version of the wife in the first photo. So this is very common. And, they model their fake womanhood after their wives. It's like this kind of sexual cannibalism. They try to consume and become their wives. I mean, the psychology at play here is really dark. Okay, this is pure horror movie stuff going on. And then you're unleashing these same guys into women's locker rooms. The other thing I wanted to point out in the article is the language that the article uses. And this is a shift that I've noticed. I think it's far more significant than most people give it credit for. So you notice how in the article, in the New York Post refers to this man as a he. Actually, weirdly, in the first couple of paragraphs, the article uses the they pronoun, but then it shifts suddenly in one sentence and starts using he. So you end up with this bizarre sentence. Alexis Black ran afoul of women at the gym in Beverly Hills, including singer-songwriter Tish Hyman, who accused them of exposing himself and harassing her in the locker room. I mean, that sentence doesn't make any sense. Accused them of exposing himself and harassing her in the locker room. I have no idea what's going on here. I mean, if you didn't have any context and you read that sentence, you would have no clue who did what. Them, him, her. You're using all three in the same sentence. So, but then they shift into he, him, and they use that pronoun through the rest of the article. And I've noticed this with other outlets as well. Now, some of the, if you NBC News or CBS, they still have not made this jump. I don't know if they ever will. But I've noticed this with more and more outlets that they are slowly but surely getting away from playing the preferred pronoun game. And this is one of the kind of last dominoes that needed to fall for the pro-trans side. I've wondered when media outlets would finally give it up, finally just stop playing the language game. Because 5 years ago, they were doing this to pander to a certain audience, and now that audience is dwindling and dwindling. It's like, who are you even pandering to anymore? So it seems like that domino has started to fall, which I think is very significant. Okay, finally, we have to mention this. Sydney Sweeney was interviewed by GQ. I certainly have seen this by now, but this is a moment in the interview that's gotten a lot of attention. It's the moment when the reporter Catherine Stoffel tried to get her to apologize for her Good Genes ad that everybody pretended to be upset about. And if somehow you have not seen this yet, well, here was Sydney's response, which was quite perfect.
The criticism of the content, which was basically that maybe specifically in this political climate, like white people shouldn't joke about genetic superiority. Like that was kind of like the criticism, broadly speaking. And since you are talking about this, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that specifically.
I think that when I have an issue that I want to speak about, people will hear.
So that's a perfect response. Maybe Sydney Sweeney really is based. I don't know. I confess I was really skeptical of the Sydney Sweeney is based narrative. I was skeptical. I was skeptical because literally every other time we're told a celebrity is based, it turns out to be false. Every other time we're told that a celebrity, this is really a right-winger in disguise. Every other time it has not been true. And maybe this is the one time when it is true. I don't know. But you notice two things here. And first of all, of course, there's the question from the reporter. This is every leftist millennial woman in a nutshell. This is every, female HR rep you'll ever encounter, every female corporate drone, almost every female you'll find in media or politics. It's all right there. All right there. The smarmy, up-talking tone, the smug facial expression, and most of all, the attempts to manipulate and control you while framing it passive-aggressively as an opportunity. So she says, I just want to give you the opportunity. I just want to give you the opportunity to apologize. I'm going to generously grant you the opportunity. I want to take a moment and I want to give you the chance. I want to give you the chance to grovel. I really want to give you the chance to grovel and fall before my feet in remorse. I just really like to give you the opportunity to prostrate yourself before me and beg for my pardon. I just want to give you the opportunity. It's like they're taking you up to the guillotine and saying, I want to give you the opportunity to put your head right there. I wanted to really give you the chance. I wanted to really give you an opportunity to put your head right there and have it removed from your shoulders. I just really wanted to, because I figured you want the opportunity. You would want the opportunity to put your head right there. So this is the tyranny that we live under. This is what it looks like and sounds like. It doesn't even have the integrity to be honest about what it is. Because at least in the old days, if they're going to cut your head off, like they're pretty clear that this is what we're doing to you. You don't have a choice. Sorry about your luck. Actually, not sorry. You deserve it. And so, if they're going to take you out, you would prefer that. Just be honest. Just have the guts to look me in the eye and tell me this is what's happening. But now they won't even give you that. They won't even give you that. And it just smiles. This is what they do. They smile smugly and they give you that ridiculous look with that grating, up-talking tone, giving you the opportunity. And then, you note that. That's one thing you note. And then you note Sydney's answer, which is, which is exactly the right way to answer. It's very important. It's very important that she did not respond by claiming that the ad was not racist. She was not defending the ad. She could have done that. Right? I mean, what they wanted was the apology, but if she wasn't going to give the apology, there were a couple of other ways to go about it. And typically what most people just give the apology. That's what we've seen over the last many years as wokeness has taken over. Most people, when they're given the opportunity to apologize, they will, they will take advantage of the opportunity and they'll apologize. But then even on the relatively rare occasion where someone refuses to apologize, usually they refuse to apologize by explaining themselves, by defending themselves, by saying, well, that's not true. That's not true. It's not racist. But she didn't do that. And that's critically important. This is the principle that this is the principle that this is the principle I will live and die by. Never explain yourself. Never justify it. When people start saying, explain this, explain yourself, never do it. right? When the mob comes for you, when the smarmy liberal woman with that ridiculous look on her face when they come for you and they want the explanation, you don't give it to them. And when they call you racist, the appropriate answer is not, no, I'm not racist. No, the appropriate answer is, well, oh, you think that? Well, I don't care that you think that. Oh, is that what you think? Okay. Thanks for letting me know. It's what Sydney said. Do you want to explain yourself? No, I'm good. Well, don't you want to explain? Don't you want to? All these people, they want you just to explain. No, fine. You know, when I got something I want to talk about, I'll let you know. But other than that, we're good. Anything else? That's it. And that's the thing. That's the end of it. Once you've conveyed this, once you've made it clear that you don't care what they think of you or what labels they put on you, and that you're not going to explain yourself, you're not going to justify yourself, you're not going to defend yourself. And when I say not defend yourself, I mean you're not going to lay down and just take it, but you're not going to be defensive. You're not going to defend yourself in the sense of rationalizing and explaining and all these sorts of things. You're going to refuse to be like the on the witness stand being interrogated and having to explain all of everything you did and your whereabouts and where were you last night. But you're not going to do that. You're just not going to do it. And once you've made that clear, then they've been stripped of their power. Really, they got nothing left. Because the main power that they have over you is your desire to be accepted by them. That's the main power that these people have, is your desire for their acceptance and for their approval. Now, they do have other powers also. Not quite to the extent that they used to a few years ago, but there are other things that they can try to do to screw your life up. But most of that they don't have over somebody like Sydney Sweeney. They do have other powers, but the main power they have, the main weapon they have at their disposal is your desire for their approval. And if you've made it clear that you don't have that desire, well, then you haven't taken away necessarily all of their arrows, but you've taken away most of them. And that's what happened here. So I think that's great. Pivotal moment, I think, in our culture right there. Have you ever taken a look at the nutrition label on any typical bag of chips? Find a chemical cocktail, seed oils, MSG, artificial dyes, vague natural flavors and ingredients that sound more like a science experiment than a snack. Vandy Crisps are part of something bigger, a movement back to real food, the kind our grandparents ate before everything started getting made in labs. I'm talking just 3 simple ingredients here: 100% pesticide-free potatoes, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. That's it. No seed oil, no mystery chemicals you can't pronounce, just actual food. And here's the thing. These chips don't just avoid all the bad stuff. They taste incredible also. When you snack on Vandy Crisps, it's a completely different experience from regular chips. You'll feel satisfied and energetic, not bloated or sluggish with that gross crash you get from the usual stuff. Plus, because they're made with real ingredients, they're actually satiating. So you won't find yourself mindlessly eating the whole bag and still feeling hungry afterwards. Vandy Crisps has a lot of great flavors worth trying, but their original flavor is personally my favorite, but they're all really good. And if you love Vandy, then you'll love Masa chips. Masa, Vandy's sister company, makes the most delicious 3-ingredient tortilla chips I've ever tasted as well. Ready to give Vandy or Masa a try? Use code Walsh for 25% off your first order at vandycrisps.com or massachips.com, or simply click the link in the description or scan the QR code to claim this delicious offer. Don't feel like ordering online? Vandy and Masa are now available nationwide at your local Sprouts supermarket. Stop by, pick up a couple bags before they're gone. You've seen the teaser, you've heard the hype. Well, the wait is almost over. The Pendragon Cycle, The Rise of the Merlin, our biggest and most ambitious series ever, is coming exclusively to Daily Wire Plus. All access members get early access to episodes 1 and 2 on Christmas Day. Annual members can watch both starting January 22nd. And next Wednesday, November 19th at 7 p.m. Eastern, during a new episode of Friendly Fire, we are world premiering the official trailer right now at dailywire.com. You can get your first look at the official series artwork. The Pendragon Cycle, The Rise of Merlin, is coming soon. The only place to watch is Daily Wire Plus. at dailywire.com/subscribe. Now let's get to our daily cancellation. Today for our daily cancellation, we have some tragic news. Here's the headline from The Economist. With Trump and Vance in power, many pro-natalists believe this is the moment to jumpstart baby making. But some critics see pro-natalism as part of an insidious project to create a whiter America. Yes, I regret to inform you that The Economist is on to us. They've broken the case wide open. We white people, we can't hide anything from their crack team of investigators. They've somehow discovered our insidious plot to continue existing. Scooby-Doo and the gang have ripped our masks off and revealed our sinister plan to, become not extinct. They're pointing their fingers at us and charging us with the crime of wanting to be instead of not be. And we have no recourse but to throw up our hands and say, guilty as charged. You caught us. You got us. We want to continue being instead of not be. We think we think that to be is better than to not be. That's how we've answered the age-old question. So the writer of this article is someone named Barclay Bram, which sounds less like the name of a human person and more like the name of an overpriced menswear brand or something. But Barclay Bram apparently attended this year's NatalCon, a conference that focuses on the problem of declining birth rates. Barclay was, of course, horrified by what he witnessed. The people at this conference believe that human reproduction is good. Indeed, they would prefer that human reproduce rather than not reproduce. They hold to the extremist view that the collapse and disintegration of human society would be a bad thing. And worst of all, as the journalist notes again and again, most of the people at this conference were white. And he makes this racial point at least 5 times in the article, if you read it, which I don't recommend doing. It's kind of a waste of time, but if you do, you'll find again and again and again, keeps going back to this. So here's a sample. Quote, there was a sense among many at NatalCon that with Trump and Vance in power, the moment to jumpstart American baby making had come at last. But those gathered outside the museum on the opening night of the conference had a different impression. That pronatalism was part of a broader and more insidious project to create a whiter America. A group of protesters, their faces mostly covered, gathered in the new museum's courtyard. Nazis off our campus, they screamed through a megaphone as conference attendees streamed in. One sign read eugenesis with the word natalist crossed through. At NatalCon, the tech gurus were conspicuous, sporting T-shirts with their company logos and the occasional Patagonia to guard against the aggressive air. So too were the religious conservatives, who were usually dressed in business casual, their pressed shirts neatly tucked in. The crowd was nearly all male and mostly white. It was noticeable that at NatalCon, a conference that billed itself as finding solutions for the biggest global crisis, almost all the speakers were white Americans. At the same time, this year's NatalCon featured a number of speakers known to espouse white supremacists or other objectionable views. So, you see there. Yes, how bizarre that a conference in America would feature American speakers. White ones at that. And this is all very disturbing, supposedly, we're told. But let me make 2 points about this. And first of all, there is a global population crisis. That's a fact. Birth rates are declining across the world and have fallen below replacement level. That is, women are having, on average, fewer than 2 children. In many countries in Europe, like Italy and Germany, countries in East Asia, like South Korea and Japan, of course, here in the United States. In the U.S., the average number of children per woman is about 1.6, which is considerably below replacement level, which means that we are not having enough babies to replace the older people who are dying off. And this was not the case as recently as a few decades ago. In the 1960s, the fertility rate was about 3.5 children per woman. So the average American family has shrunk by about 2 kids over the past 60 years. Meanwhile, the average age of first marriage for a woman in the U.S. has gone from 20 years old in 1960 to 29 today. The average age when a woman has a child has also gone up significantly. In 1970, a woman was on average about 21 when she had her first kid. Now she's about 28 or 29. It cannot be overstated just how bizarre this situation is from a historical perspective. No country in the history of the world, through thousands of years of human existence, ever had a population where women on average waited until they were 30 almost to have kids. And there's a reason for that. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work this way. It's not sustainable. None of this is sustainable. As our population gets older and growth continues to slow down, we will become, as a population, increasingly old, brittle, top-heavy. The implications are vast and terrible. Increasing strains on our healthcare system, shrinking workforce, higher tax burden on the young, the Social Security program collapses, all of the so-called social safety nets collapse, and so on and so on. There is nothing insidious about noticing this problem and trying to fix it. There is something very insidious about telling us that we should not notice it or try to fix it. And speaking of things that we're not supposed to notice, with all that said, birth rates are not declining everywhere in the world. There is one major region that has not fallen into this trend, and that is Sub-Saharan Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa has an average fertility rate of 5 to 6 children per woman. Remember, in America, it's 1.6, okay, less than 2. In Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, it's 5 or 6 per woman. Right now, the population of Sub-Saharan Africa is about 1.2 billion. In another 2 or 3 decades, it will be doubled to about 2 billion. 50 years after that, it will have doubled again. In 1950, Sub-Saharan Africa accounted for about 7% of the world's population. Today, it's 14%. So it's doubled in terms of its, not just gross population, but also in terms of its percentage of the overall population. And by the turn of the next century, it'll be about 25 or 30% or more. So the poorest and most dysfunctional part of the world is also experiencing the fastest population growth by far. But the problem here is that Sub-Saharan Africa cannot sustain itself or take care of its own population. It can't take care of itself now with 1 billion people. It relies on charity from the quote-unquote developed world. It can't take care of itself. It won't be able to take care of itself with 2 billion people if it can't do it with 1 billion. And what that means is that these populations will increasingly flee, and they will flood into more of the developed Western world, where we have food and housing and infrastructure and welfare. And what that means, and this is already happening, of course, but it's only going to get worse. And so what that means is that now young working Americans will not only be tasked with caring for their own aging population, but also supporting the entire third world as it streams into the country with no plan and no ability to actually contribute to it economically. And even if they could contribute economically, the fact is that the more that America becomes a third world country, the less that it is America. I mean, if you swap out the population of America for the population of Sub-Saharan Africa, America is not America anymore. Now it's just another region of Africa. You'll have Sub-Saharan Africa, Northern Africa, and North American Africa. The USA, once the greatest country in the history of the world, will then cease to exist. Everything that made it great, and everyone who made it great, will be gone. Now, am I a white supremacist for pointing this out, as the Economist would surely claim? Well, no, I think it just makes me rational. What I'm saying is, like, this is just what's happening, and this is where it's leading. And it also makes me an American who wants to preserve the existence of my nation and its people, the American people. And that also makes me rational. But whatever label you want to put on it, because again, we don't concern ourselves with the labels that disingenuous people use, regardless, this is the situation. It is a major crisis. And it is, in many ways, the major crisis of our time. We should be focused on it, no matter what The Economist has to say about it. And that is why The Economist is today canceled. That'll do it for the show today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day. Godspeed.
Democrats cave to reopen the government. The Supreme Court may overturn gay marriage. And Pope Leo takes on internet vices. Check it out on The Michael Knowles Show.